Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura, and this is day 5 of our cruise on board P&O Britannia in April 2023.
So as you can see, we're filming this back at home. So today we're going to talk to you about everything we did on our last day on board Britannia, and also we'll take you through disembarkation and how that worked for us.
So a little bit different for us this morning. We made it to breakfast. So the reason we made it to breakfast is because we have been on an excursion. So we went to the buffet for breakfast. It was busy but not hectic.
Yeah, it was all right, really, weren't it?
And I just had a few pastries, fruit croissants.
Yeah, I had I think I had bacon and made myself like a little sandwich with a roll, and we just wanted something because we knew we'd be starving if we didn't set ourselves up with something to eat before we went.
And when I say a few croissants, they are only little, they're not big massive ones.
So we headed down then to meet our excursion. The time on our excursion tickets was 10:15, and it says in all the info that you need to be there 15 minutes before. So we gave ourselves a little bit more time and headed straight out.
Yeah,
I think it says like 15 minutes before to meet, but also allow yourself 15 minutes to get off. And we didn't need 15 minutes to get off, so we were on the coach by
about 10 to.
Yeah.
About 10 to 10, and our excursion was going to Ghent. We've never been to Ghent before.
No.
We've been to Bruges before, we've been to Blankenberg before, so we thought we'd try something a little bit different. And our coach pulled away about 5 to 10.
Yeah.
On the coach, there was obviously the coach driver, and then there was a tour guide, and he was very knowledgeable. He obviously didn't just do excursions around there, he did them in Amsterdam, he did them in France.
Yeah, he was like a location of free toilets expert as well.
So if you're ever in Amsterdam, the toilet to use is apparently Primark, but not if you're in Ghent, because there's not a toilet in the Primark in Ghent. And he gave us lots of information as we were leaving the port about the port area, general information about Belgium and the history, and then some information about Ghent. Then he gave us a bit of quiet time.
So we got the maximum out of that quiet time by having a little nap, because as you've learned by now, that was an early start for us. So when we arrived in Ghent, the tour guide walked us to where the meeting point was going to be.
Probably a 10-15 minute walk, wasn't it?
Yeah, apparently the coaches can't drop you off too far in because there's been like tourism complaints and things like that. He was mentioning.
And it's quite pedestrianised around there.
Yeah. So we walked with him through and already got to see some like amazing views and how beautiful it really was. And then he took us to the meeting point and pointed out the toilets, which were, I think, the only toilets we managed to find, except for toilets inside like bars and restaurants, etc. So,
but I think he did say that they were the only free toilets other than bars and restaurants that you could use. So then we spent that 3.5 hours just having a nice little wander around.
Yeah.
We first of all started like around the old town type of part, went in the churches, had a look inside.
Yeah.
Then we didn't go up the towers.
No. And then I'm gonna sound really stupid now. Is it a canal or a river? But we had a walk along the canal, didn't we? And spent some time having a look there. And the weather was also really nice. We were so lucky that the clouds are starting to clear and there was some nice blue sky, and it was just generally having
and
a
it was
nice
relatively quiet still around at this time. And then we had we really wanted some chips.
Lizzie really wanted some chips.
So you've got to have chips and mayonnaise when you're in Belgium. Definitely. So we found somewhere where they sold chips, and so I had some chips and mayonnaise, and Laura had...
I had ketchup because mayonnaise is disgusting.
And then we went and sat along the canal and sat and ate them, and they were massive. We had the small, but they were absolutely
enormous. Big. If we both liked the same sauce, we could have easily shared. It was giant.
And then we had a wander towards like the shopping area.
Yeah.
It seemed to get really busy.
Yeah, it did.
It was just... So it was relatively quiet when we first got there. It was just like really easy to walk around, and then it got busy like across the bridge and things like that, and in certain areas. So clearly the morning is the best time to, if you want it to be quiet, the best time to go. And loads of like bars and restaurants weren't open at lunchtime, so the ones along the canal were. Yeah. You could sit outside them, and people were sitting outside having a beer and some food, but some of the other ones down the side streets, their opening hours were 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah. So then, to be honest, the 3.5 hours flew by, didn't it? Before we knew it, we were heading back.
because we'd sort of made a decision that we weren't going to do anything like go on one of the trips on the canal because of the time.
Yeah.
And we always like saving something in case we go back.
Yeah, we always say like we don't want to do like the main thing the first time we go somewhere, so we've got an excuse to go back again.
So then we met at the meeting point.
Yeah.
Just as it was starting to rain.
Just made it, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the meeting point was under a big shelter, so it was
the sheep shed, did he
what
call it? Something like that.
Yeah, he hated it anyway. The tour guide thought that the building where the meeting point was the ugliest thing that has ever been invented.
So there was a little shower then while we were waiting for everyone to meet, and then it stopped for our walk back.
Yeah, we were really
to the coach, and then we had another little nap on the coach on the journey.
And when we got back to the ship, it was really busy. Obviously, a lot of excursions had arrived back at the same time, and it was just the sort of time everybody was trying to get back on.
It was probably about 45 minutes before all aboard time.
Yeah, and there were 2 gangways open, and there were massive queues for both gangways, and there were plenty of staff out there trying to move people into queues and get things moving. We definitely chose the wrong gangway again.
Yeah. Because we discovered that there was only one security checkpoint throughout,
Yeah.
whereas on the other gangway there were 2. So even though that queue looked longer, it was quicker.
Yeah, moving a lot faster. But we did. How long do you reckon it took? About half an hour.
Yeah, maybe a little bit less than that.
Yeah, to get back on. So it wasn't awful, but it was just you're tired. You want to get back on. You want to go to the toilet. Yeah. So it was a bit annoying, but can't really be helped.
So we got back on board and we went and sat and had a drink in Brody's.
Yeah.
It was a little bit cold in there because it was by the open gangways, but there were seats, so we thought we'll just sit here for a bit. And then while we were there, the captain made an announcement to say that there was a group of people, I can't remember the number, but it was a substantial number of about 25, something like that, that had missed their train.
No, the train was delayed.
So they hadn't quite made it back to the ship on time.
Yeah.
And he had said he would wait for them because they had phoned the ship. The ship knew that they were going to be about another half an hour or so.
Yeah. But this isn't the first time we've had this happen to us at this port. So you'll see so many people saying it's so easy to get the train into Bruges, but we've witnessed the trains get completely cancelled on one occasion. And the trains were cancelled, so people couldn't even go out on another occasion. So it is a risk, definitely, doing the train journey, and it's what always puts us off doing it like that.
We had friends that had to get a taxi all the way back from there because the trains all got cancelled. They were lucky because obviously lots of people were in the same situation, so people were sharing.
And I think that day we'd been really lazy and just stayed on board. We headed back to the cabin to get ready and pack our stuff, because last night, always the worst bit. And also we started checking the queues now for like the virtual queuing for the dining rooms, and they were all either closed or massive again.
I think it just said they were all full.
They said they were full, and there was, it says they're full and they had one person in the queue. That's what he kept doing. So we got on with the packing, got ourselves sorted, and then we headed out for the night.
Then we headed to Live Lounge because Pulse were on in there and it was Guilty Pleasure set.
Yeah, so we thought we'd go and watch that.
It's one of our favourites. It's our type of music that we like listening to, and we were hoping that the queues might go down. We just presumed that lots of people had gone to dinner early, so that's why they were so busy all the time. And then we left there when Pulse finished their set to head down to the dining room to find out what was happening, but there we had a little diversion.
Yeah, we were walking past the Future Cruise bookings desk, and there was one member of staff still working. We had been walking past this desk all cruise during opening hours, and we just couldn't work out what the queuing system was at all. There were like a few seats just outside, and people would be sat there. And we just didn't really know how to join the queue. And
sometimes you couldn't tell if they were just sat there for a rest or if they were sat there waiting, but there was always people.
It was always busy.
So we walked past, saw that someone was working, and I poked my head around and said, I don't suppose you can still book us a cruise, can you?
Yeah. She was a little bit, she was obviously trying to finish up her paperwork and things like that. So she was like, I suppose I can. And we were like, we promise we know what we want to book already. Like, we won't take much time. And then she was the loveliest, wasn't she? She was so helpful.
We booked the cruise, and it's because it's a cruise we've been eyeing up for a long time. It's a cruise we've wanted to do for a while, and it's going on P&O's Aurora, and it's over New Year. So we're really excited
for that. And we just, part of us was going to hold our nerve to see if the price dropped, but then because Aurora's only a small ship and New Year's always popular, we were worried that it was going to sell out, so we just thought, let's just do it, get it booked.
And then we headed down to the dining room because
Yeah.
by now it was getting quite worryingly late.
Just after 8:30 now at this point, wasn't it? And the queues were still not open.
And we went to the desk and they quite willingly gave us a buzzer, but said it's going to be about an hour wait.
Yeah. And they asked us if we were happy to wait. And I said, what if we say no? And they just sort of laughed. And I was like, if we say no, like that means we're not going to get any dinner. And they were just like, well, yeah. kind of thing. So we were like, fine, and took the buzzer. I did run downstairs to the dining room below just to see if the wait was any less there. And they said no. They said, you're better off upstairs. We're in even worse situation down here. So we took the buzzer and headed over to Brody's. So we sat in Brody's and had a drink while we were waiting. And there was football on the TV. It was quite busy in there. There were quite a few people around.
I feel like it might have been Liverpool.
But we didn't really want to go too far, basically, because we wanted to be quick into the dining room as soon as the buzzer went off, because we were starving by this point. So we sat and waited, and it didn't take as long as they'd said. But
it was about 20 past 9.
It was still a late dinner by the time we got in there. And when we got in there, it was practically empty. There was barely anybody in there at all.
Tonight the service was really fast. Well, it had to be really because of the time.
Otherwise the staff were never finishing their shifts.
And the food was really good tonight.
It was. It all tasted like. I mean, I'm assuming they probably had to have some of it cooked because we were so late in there.
So I had a Caesar salad for a starter. I normally tend to have at least one on a cruise, and I hadn't had one yet, so I had to have one.
And I had these like ham croquettes that were really, really tasty as well. They're a bit like one of the starters you can get in the Olive Grove. Lizzie doesn't think they're as good, but I thought they were.
Well, they didn't look like them.
They did. They looked just the same.
For mains, it was described as like vegetable and bean tacos. I love tacos, so went for it. I was a bit scared about what vegetables might be in it, but actually it was really, really delicious, really, really good.
Yeah, and I had the fish, which was also really nice. Had
lots of
little prawns with it as well, so yeah, really tasty. And then for dessert, we both had ice cream, which I suppose is a bit boring, but it just sort of finished it off quite nicely.
And he thought it was hilarious the way I did when I asked for chocolate sauce on my vanilla ice cream. I think he thought I was a child.
We went to the theatre after that, and we saw Rachel Haunt again, who was once again brilliant. This time it was like her as herself rather than as the Cher tribute, and we enjoyed that.
She sang lots of songs by different divas.
Yeah.
So there was a wide variety of songs from quite a lot of decades.
Yeah, just straight through the ages, didn't she? And then she did a little surprise duet with one of the guys out of Rock On. They did Shallow from A Star Is Born, and that was really good. We have it on good authority that they'd only practiced that once. So it was, really, really impressive for a one-shot practice.
Then it was karaoke.
Yeah.
And we love watching people sing karaoke. It's very, very rare we get up.
If we do get up, then it means we've probably had too much to drink.
Or we've been forced into it. And we got a decent seat in there. It wasn't... Normally karaoke is rammed.
Yeah.
And that's when it tends to be in somewhere like... when it's in Brody's. But it wasn't... You could get a seat quite easily. Great fun again, watching people. And lots of Shallow.
Yeah, I think we saw at least 2 other renditions of Shallow. And but they were quite good. And then we did see some good comedy ones as well. We ended our night in Live Lounge as normal.
Couldn't not go there on the last night.
No, we had to do it just for tradition's sake. Just had a couple of drinks in there. There was quite a few people still in there. It wasn't like everybody hadn't gone to bed early for the last night or anything like that. There were a few people around. It still had a good atmosphere. And it was just a nice way to end the cruise, I suppose.
We then headed back to the cabin. We needed to just finish off our packing. We'd done most of it. There was just a little tiny bit left to do. Now, usually, we would have done all that beforehand because we would usually put our suitcases outside the room. but we decided for the first time to try disembarking ourselves.
We both had quite a good night's sleep. Normally, like last night of cruise, it's really like broken sleep for us, isn't it? But both managed quite a nice night's sleep. But our alarm went off far too early for us to get up, and because we were self-disembarking, we needed to be off the ship before 8 a.m. was the rules with it. Like if we weren't going to self-disembark, our time was something like 10:30, and we really didn't want to be hanging around for that long after we'd been thrown out the cabin. So we never bothered with breakfast on the last day, and we grabbed our stuff and we left the room at about 8:45 to head to the lifts. And this is, I suppose, where the fun sort of started.
So the self-disembarkation time was between 7 and 8, but an announcement hadn't been made at 7 o'clock to be able to get off the ship. It was closer to 7:30 by the time you could. So I suppose that might have been part of what had made it then really busy when we left the cabin at 8:15.
Quarter to 8.
Yeah, 8:45. Now we were midship.
Yeah.
So there's no stairs there. There's only lifts,
which is a big source of drama on Britannia. But
so we went to try and get a lift from there, and every time a lift opened on our floor, they were just absolutely chocker full.
Yeah.
So then we decided, let's walk to the forward lifts and try those, because, and just as we got there, we saw some people getting in the lift, and we thought, oh great, this looks like
we've done a genius thing here.
It wasn't.
It wasn't.
So then it took us in total, it was over 15 minutes to actually get into a lift, and even then we didn't both get in the lift.
No, in the end, Lizzie had to get in the lift with the cases, and I then ran down the stairs. I was determined to beat the lift to the bottom, and I did.
So I recommend, if you don't need to use a lift, don't bother using it. We actually saw people, and I don't know, they might not have been able to walk the stairs, but there were people that were jumping in lifts to go down one flight. We couldn't carry our suitcases down
because they were our large suitcases. If we only had the small hand luggage suitcase, we would have done it, and we do normally just use the stairs on disembarkation morning, but because we were self-disembarking and had all of our luggage, it was just impossible.
And we had to go from 12 down to 5.
Yeah.
So there was no way we would have managed it. So finally, anyway, we got down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And then there was a queue.
Yeah, and it was quite a long queue as well, actually. So we was not really panicking, but we were starting to think, oh God, we've missed the self-disembarkation window. Like, are they going to be funny about it? But there was no issue at all.
And they hadn't started anybody disembarking who wasn't doing self-disembarkation.
And people were definitely joining the self queue that weren't self-disembarking, but there's probably not a lot they could do about that. And yeah, you could tell that it was just a little bit frantic and a bit busy that morning. But the self-disembarkation was quite good because we were off and out quite quickly.
I don't think I'd do it for a longer cruise when I'd got more luggage. Definitely wouldn't do it on a 2-week cruise where I've probably we'll probably have a third suitcase between us and one for shoes.
If you've got too much luggage, obviously it's going to be a nightmare.
When you haven't got quite as much, it is a good option, because sometimes I know some people like going to have breakfast and making the most of their last morning, but for us, we just want to get off.
Get in the car and get home.
So then,
overall, we had a really good time.
As we always do.
Yeah, as usual. We loved Britannia. She's a lovely ship. And we are going to be posting some more content about some of the stuff we got up to on board. And we will do like an overall review, I suppose, of the things that we really loved and some of the things that weren't quite as good. So make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. And you can also follow us on all social media. We're at Sisters on the Seas.